Brother Ali?
And that's the truth.
I would like to pose a question. As somebody from this current generation, as a youth, what would you say to encourage me? What would you say to encourage my other peers to continue to move forward?
Organization. Our biggest weakness is organization. We're the smartest people of all time culturally, but the dumbest politically. We have almost no organization, and that's going to kill us, because I think that a lot of us, especially the young generation, they're content with knowing, but they're not interested in doing. I often say that you look at any of our previous movements, the anti-slavery movement, Reconstruction, Garvey, civil rights, Black Power, they were action-based, action. Now today, it's all knowledge-based. All we have to do is raise the consciousness, raise the consciousness. Raising consciousness doesn't change conditions. You have to act on it. And unfortunately, we've had a detour somewhere. And I think our scholars are responsible for this, because a lot of them weren't interested in acting. So they made knowing the be-all and end-all, because they wasn't interested in doing anything with what they knew. See, there's always been an issue, and Harold Cruz talks about this in Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. Julian and Nathan Hare, the Black Anglo-Saxons, the Black bourgeoisie, E. Franklin Frazier. They talk about that educated Black person and how many of them become detriments to their community, because once they ease into a comfortable job with good pay, they become very stagnant and they don't seek to do anything else. And we have to look at the fact that the so-called African-centered scholar ain't much different than the Negro scholar in that regard. They talk Black, live white, and think green. And I think we got to recognize that when we talk about collective progress for the people, it's not going to come from our universities, not at all. It's going to come from people who are economically independent. And that's why when the good brother and myself talk about economic empowerment, this even is relative for the liberation struggle, because only those who are economically independent can truly lead or organize the liberation struggle. As long as you have to keep looking over your back in terms of whether you're going to be terminated from your job, that nobody's going to pick the struggle. Few people are going to pick the struggle over their family. So if I have to back off because we might end up going homeless because I'm going to lose my job, then I'm going to back off. So one of the things we got to recognize is when we talk about becoming entrepreneurs and economically independent, we're talking about your ability to participate in struggle 100% without no reservations. So I'm self-employed. I can go 100 miles an hour. He's self-employed. He can go 100 miles an hour. A lot of our Afrocentric scholars working for these white universities, they can't go 100 miles an hour, okay? And then a lot of us, our egos are tied up in these positions we get working for Europeans. So once you get tenured, or once you're the senior vice president of that, or the president of this, now your ego is attached to this position. And you're really not willing to give it up because you build a whole identity around a job that white people gave you. You see, so I think it's very important that our youth grow up understanding that you're going to have to be economically independent if you want to make a significant contribution to this struggle. Look at all the great ones: Dr. King, Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew. Look at Huey. Look at Mr. Garvey. All of them were economically independent. There's no way they could have done what they done worrying about whether they're going to get fired. Yes, you're going to get fired. You know that, which is why you got to be economically independent to even get in it.
Brother Ali, did you want to mark on it?
Hey, let me tell you something. When you hear truth, you acknowledge it. You understand? That's the power of the ancestors, and that's what the brother was talking about. There's no need for ego. It's about humility. And so, guess what? I was just speaking.
There you go.
Do you understand? I don't need anything to say.
Well, do my co-hosts have anything to say?
Yeah, I would just say one thing. You know, I'm a little younger, still in school. One of the things that you know would interest me in terms of how can you how can you encourage youth would be encouragement. You know, just saying you can do it. You know, and a lot of times when we go out and we do activist work and we try to galvanize people and talk to people and things like that, all we get is, you know, why are you doing that? You can't do that. You know, what are you doing? Like, why won't you be that?
Right.
I used to be the BSU president at my community college before I transferred, and I remember running and people telling me, you can't do it. You know, why would you do it? Thank God I did it anyway, and you know, it worked out, but I still remember that. And a lot of times people get burnt out because of a lack of support, you know. and not and I'm not trying to be idealistic, like I'm always going to get support, and I'm not trying to, and like my people always got support, because the reality is a lot of these activists and brothers who went out here and did things, back in the 60s and the 70s and 80s didn't have a lot of support, but it would be nice to have support, especially, from your own people, and that's something that gives you a lot of strength, in my opinion.